Hello everyone, it's Gid here from the Streamer Consciousness podcast, just throwing this in at the beginning of this week's episode 4, which you are about to listen to. And it's quite unique this week because the guest that I had on the podcast, me and him, we really hit it off and we talked for almost 3 hours, to which at the end of the podcast he said, it would be a good idea for you to split this podcast down into 2 more sizable chunks, which would go along with how we've been formatting the podcast anyway, into sort of like an hour and a half, to make it more listenable, I guess, or more manageable chunks for you guys to enjoy for the week. So yes, this first episode, the first half of the podcast, will be out this week, and then next week I will release the second half of the podcast. So I really hope you enjoy, and just know that there will be, like, the conclusion to it will come out next week. So make sure you are subscribed if you're on YouTube, or if you're listening on Spotify or any other social media, then yes, please do make sure you catch the next episode next week as well. So let's jump right into it. Hello and welcome to Streamer Consciousness, a podcast designed to talk about a person's thoughts and conscious reactions to events perceived as a continuous flow. My name is Gideon. I go by Gid or Giddawid on not only Twitch, but other social media as well. And it is an absolute honor to be joined by this week's guest, a man who has reached levels of fame that I'm not sure he even realizes he's at, especially with YouTube. He's been doing it for 8 years in the game, since 2012, and has over 1 billion views. That's right, 1 billion views. Daithi De Nogla, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you, Giddawid. I appreciate it, man.
So yeah,
do I list off a lot of great things about you now as well?
Oh yeah, let's see what you know.
Well, okay. Oh, the glasses suit you. Glasses are important. I feel like you always need glasses that complement your face. so you know, you got good glass choices, good glasses. I'm looking at your background, and you got a nice healthy quote there. When you feel like quitting, think about why you started. That's a good perseverance quote. You like Indiana Jones. You got Deadpool, you got Bulbasaur, is probably your favorite starter if you got him there.
He absolutely was, yeah.
You got the Donkey Kong drums in the top, so you probably played GameCube when you were 10.
I did.
And that game is an absolute banger of a game. The one where you use the bongos to move.
I like that you've also aged me there by being like, when I was 10, the GameCube, I had it, which is absolutely correct. By the way,
yeah,
I think I was 11.
It's around that time. yeah. Usually when people get. I was probably around the same time too. GameCube, amazing console, and Wii. So yeah, you're definitely a gamer. You're definitely a gamer for sure. And probably a little bit of a movie buff too.
It's funny you say that, because whenever it comes to streaming in general, I always feel like it's weird, because most games I play now, I sit down and I stream them. So it's weird to sort of step away from gaming when I step away from the PC. And you're absolutely
everybody
right.
Everybody faces that. You're in the same boat as everybody else. It's like you know, it's when your hobby becomes your job. It changes the nature of it a lot. And it's usually why, you know, you see some people like I'll just give you, at least from my observation, people long ago, they had like Call of Duty montages. They're not very popular anymore, but they were big when I was starting. You'd have a sniper montage, some guy would jump off a roof and 360 no scope some dude, and he'd have some like hardcore copyrighted music in there. Back when you could just get away with that shit. But basically, all of those guys, they're, you know, known as FaZe and stuff like that, and they've just deviated to vlog stuff, because a lot of people get very burnt out on the fact that their job is now their hobby. It definitely wears you down. I think that, because like it was used as an escape. But what if, you know, your escape is something that you need to escape from?
Absolutely.
You know, you can it kind of becomes like you become overindulged in your escape, and then it's a wave, dude. It's a journey. It's a big journey to go from a hobby you love to turning that into a job you love, and realizing you need something outside of your hobby. You need to grow something outside of it then, because you don't really have video games outside of your work anymore. Really, you don't have it in the same way you had it before. So because you're like, oh, I'm playing a game, I should record this. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm playing a game, I should just stream this. But it's not the same as just sitting down and enjoying a game. Like I'll give you a perfect example. Like Final Fantasy VII Remake. That was my favorite game of 2020 because it was like the first ever game I beat probably in a decade nearly. Ever since I started YouTube, that I beat without recording, without streaming, without doing anything. I just sat down and played it like every other
wonderful
gamer. Yeah. So like when that didn't win Game of the Year, I was pissed. I was pretty mad on Twitter.
I was always a Final Fantasy X kind of guy. I really liked 10. But I think that was because it was I'm one of 4. So it was like the only time I got to play a solo game really was when 10 came out. So before that, it was always you had to be playing multiplayer games with your brothers and sisters. Otherwise,
2 players.
Otherwise, you can't
stuff like that.
You can't play on the console.
Games. Yeah, no, I came from a big family. The gaming kind of came from my bigger brother. So how old is he? I'm just gonna say close to 10 years older than me. Right? I'm just gonna say it. I actually don't know. I'm terrible with birthdays, ages, and names, and just anything that isn't YouTube, I guess. But he was kind of like the main figurehead for the gaming inside my house, and he got his console, the Dreamcast, and he introduced that, and basically we all like, oh, video games, all that. We can interact with the TV. That's how we saw it. Like we're interacting with the TV. We're not just watching and sitting at it. And so it became a very competitive thing. Like I've had fights. I've cried over video games when I was younger. I got the shit pummeled out of me and stuff like that. So I three brothers and 2 sisters. The sisters didn't really play, but the brothers played, and 2 closer brothers are the ones that I played with the most or observed the most. And I was the youngest, so I was an observer a lot of times. So you just play when they're not around. That was kind of how it worked. And it was sick. Like Nintendo 64 consoles. That was like Donkey Kong 64, and that was really nostalgic for me. Lots of games. So like I definitely grew up in like a gamer family. It was like, oh, what you want to do for fun? It's not going outside. It's playing some console.
Playing the game.
I remember like Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire and the Flip GBA, I think it was SP. The SP, I think is what they call it.
Yeah, the Game Boy SP.
Yeah. I got that for Christmas, and I was just completely addicted to it. but I was never like just like that for months on end. It would be for a few weeks and stuff like that. But yeah, my passion, like my hobby, has always been gaming. And so when I got to play Final Fantasy just to myself, and it was actually at a time when like it was after a good bit after my child was born. So it was nice to have something that made me feel like kind of like a child as well, in a way, like you're going through this journey, and it's amazing. So it kind of took me back, and I was like, damn, it's crazy. Like this is stuff I enjoyed when I was a child, and now that I have a child, it's like it was very like, I don't know, that game will always be like super memorable for me. I'll probably replay it a few times.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's answered one of my questions, which was what consoles did you grow up with? So that's
I'm mainly a Nintendo family, but we never got the Wii, unfortunately. But we had the GameCube, and GameCube was very precious in the house. It was very precious, very precious, very protected.
I always find it interesting as well, because we were very fortunate when it came to consoles. We had the NES. my parents would send us to bed at like 7 p.m. or whatever time it was, and then they'd play themselves. They'd play Mario and other games like that. So it was always really nice.
My parents didn't touch it. My parents didn't touch video games.
It was so nice to find out, like later on in life, that they were like, "Yeah, no, we'd send you to bed and we'd go." It would take us an hour to complete World 1-1 on Mario. But they talk about it occasionally, which is always good. But in terms of growing up with brothers and sisters, do you think that helped shape you in terms of, firstly, the career that you're in now, but secondly, the way you play video games with people?
I think like it definitely like predated my, I guess, my core enjoyment of video games, which is the social aspect of it, because I had them around. It was like, hey, you want to play Mario Tennis? Hey, do you want to play Mario Party? Stuff like that. So you'd either be observing or you'd try and negotiate with them to play a co-op game of some kind. And or versus, mainly versus, unfortunately, for competitive sakes. I was really competitive. I'm still fairly competitive, but I've relaxed a little bit on that. But yeah, no, like I'm in a very like social sphere of content creation. So I have, my group. I've known them for quite a long time. But even before my group, I had like social circle, and before that, I had a social circle. So I've always like gravitated towards like, social aspect of gamings rather than solo, which is another reason why I like Final Fantasy, because it was just something solo that I played and beat.
It was for you,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you've talked in the past about, you said about having a sort of rough time growing up when it came to school. If there was one piece of advice that if you could take yourself back to school, what is the one piece of advice you'd give yourself now, having had a child and, amassed massive amounts of entertainment for people?
Yeah. Well, on the opposite spectrum of the popularity chart, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah.
I think one thing that I would say is like, don't consider the present to be the final version of life. So, I feel like that I was very like pessimistic and conclusive about, how I saw my own life. I was very, I guess just I'm the one that gets bullied. I'm just that guy. I'm just, that's my role, to be the bullied guy or whatever. So I think, never ever like put yourself in a box definitively that you don't want to be in. You might have to be in that box for a while. That's fine. Everyone's going to go through a moment where they have, someone that's in a position where they can hurt you or harm you and possibly do it continuously. There's no shame in being in that position, and there's nothing wrong with falling into it, especially out of like, just ignorance of the person that you're getting involved with or whatever it may be. This is in every facet of life, whether it's, relationship, work, family, friends, doesn't matter. But I would say it's like, don't allow yourself to stay in that box if you don't really want to be there. Like if you're saying something to yourself like, I'll always be on the outside looking in. Some people feel like that, like this social outcast. I think if you hold on to that perspective and you believe that is like who you are, it'll just follow you. It'll just follow you wherever you go. And even when you try to be involved, and even when that door is open to you, it's very possible that you self-destruct, or you simply believe you don't deserve it because you've designated a role through your experiences in life. So I would say don't allow the experiences in your life to designate, how the future is dictated. That's what I would say.
It's really interesting that you've brought up sort of not being typecast, not being put into a box, or not putting yourself into that box. Because obviously when it comes to like playing with your core group of friends, when it comes to Van Arse and Wildcat and all that, there's always been those moments of being like, you're the guy that they prank a lot.
Yeah.
So But
Well,
the thing is
I've definitely been hardened for that. So it's like, so you know what
absolutely.
I mean? I don't get bothered by it because I think retrospectively I'm like, this is nothing. Like I know they
Yeah,
wouldn't do this to me if I was a complete stranger, number one.
of
And then
course.
number two, I'm like, this is like a drizzle compared to the storm I've been through. So yeah, I take it in my stride. I definitely
Mm,
see the comments and stuff like that.
yeah,
And when I start believing in the comments, then I get a bit like ugh, at them.
for sure.
But I if I have like more of a bigger picture look at it, I kind of see that, most people that bring up those comments there, it's out of them trying to be caring or out of them trying to relate, or I don't know what they another thing is I don't really know what they wish to achieve by telling me what they think as well.
I
That's another thing is like,
yeah. I
what are you
think it
actually looking to achieve here? If you want me to believe what you're saying, you're basically saying that I need to leave the group. Like, do you want that to happen, or are you just saying this to just be a wrench in the works?
I think people a lot of the time don't necessarily have, firstly, they don't have the context behind the fact that outside of the content that you're creating, you guys are friends.
Yeah,
And I think people separate the two, like the only times you talk are when you are recording, therefore all they are seeing is this person's getting bullied, maybe from their perspective. So I've
yeah.
definitely seen a lot of cases when it comes to Twitch streamers or YouTubers that
Among Us.
absolutely that
This
people
is
feel like they need to protect the streamer or the person putting themselves in that position, when in fact
yeah,
it's the complete opposite. It's that you need to let them make their decisions. And like you said,
yeah.
you don't achieve anything from getting upset or angry if the person themselves is not upset or angry in the first place. You're just causing yourself
Yeah, it's a
sort
bit
of
of
a level
like
of harm.
it's a touch of cancel culture in there, you know what I
Mm,
mean? I want to be offended for my neighbor and kind of a thing. It's like I'm a good person if I'm hurt for someone else, it's like I feel like it's a bit of fake empathy, to be honest, because
interesting.
most people will probably do it, they just tweet it or they just comment it and then they move on. They don't think about it for the rest of the day. They just show it for like that and then they move on to their own problems,
Mm,
so their own issues or something that's more like tangible in terms of their in terms of their, I guess, just their life in general. So I find that I've learned to take the good with, I learned to take the good, of course, but
hmm.
and I learned to listen to feedback of constructive stuff, etc. But I would say that if someone's bringing up a problem to you and they're saying X, Y, and Z about this guy or that guy, or they're trying to, I feel in a way that if they're only pointing it out without giving anything tangible more than that, they're more, it comes across as more of a complainer than a helper. Uh,
Mm,
so it's like, yeah, you're trying to protect my feelings, but at the same time, you're also complaining about my friends.
hmm.
So,
That is
so
interesting as well that you've brought that up, because obviously when it comes to streaming, comments are live. They're always there.
oh
They're
yeah.
flowing, and a lot of people will talk in different styles or write in different styles.
Hmm.
And we don't always have the context behind why they are writing what they're writing. They don't
True. You can't
always
see their face and
absolutely.
exactly.
So how do you deal with that, especially as someone that has a lot of people there from all different backgrounds? What is your sort of methodology going into a stream as such? What is it that's different
Um,
from the content that you're creating on YouTube?
yeah, there's different situations and scenarios. Like, obviously, a lot of people put their stuff in members only or sub only mode. That's usually a pretty solid way.
Mm,
That's usually a pretty solid way to like filter out a lot of garbage. But sometimes sometimes I just leave the chat free ball and I'll be like, look, if somebody's saying something bad, there'll be someone in the chat that'll be able to counteract that and say something to him. And so that does kind of devolve into the chat becoming a full-blown argument between a few people. But I'm not reading it. I'm playing the game. And if they want to argue, that's fine. Um, but I would say there's very little that bothers me from chat. There was only one thing that bothered me, and if that person said it to my face, I would have pounded them to shit. But basically, when I stream, I have a kid, and basically, if they're crying, it's gonna come across the mic sometimes. I try to adjust the mic to, noise gated and stuff like it comes across. And so basically, I'm saying basically a lot here. Poor language. But anyways, I got up, I left, I went out the door, and I closed the door. Now the door there, it's kind of it's a double-sided door, and it can close loud, even if you use very little pressure or power or strength. And so I closed it, and then people were wondering because they basically, like, I can tell what kind of cry is coming from my kid. Like, is it just a I want an attention cry? Is it a heart cry and stuff? So I could tell this cry was more of a heart cry. So I went out then, and when I came back, there was some guy saying that I like hit my kid,
Oh, geez.
and I just went off on him. I went off on him. I got the chat to spam his name and call him dumb and everything, and I hit him. I hit him and everything. But if he said that to me in person, he'd be lucky. He'd be lucky to have fucking teeth, to be honest with you. But
I feel like people definitely will overstep the boundaries, like you were saying earlier about wanting fake empathy. At times there are those people that are doing it for attention, and if they can find any level of give to get under somebody's skin, they will take that opportunity. And again, that I need to just reiterate that we are talking about the 1% of people out there that are watching the streams. 99% of the people are very courteous and understanding, but there is a small minority of people that their one goal is to try and get under the streamer's skin.
And everybody's got like touchy spots and little triggers, and everybody's got them. Everybody's got them in some way, and people have different like coping mechanisms against those as well. So I would advise in that, like, with those things, it's best to if they're massive, it's best to address them if they're massive and they're spreading beyond the minority. I think it's very important to address them. I think it's worth listening to them, and considering them and thinking about them, but without including yourself. Look at it through the lens of they're not sending it to you. They're sending it to another stream, like a duplicate version of you, but it's not your name or anything, or doesn't look like you or whatever, but it's not you. You're dissociating yourself from the comment to you. That way you can like analyze it without ego or emotions and see it. Hold on, am I just being too sensitive here, or what's going on? So I think it's just like, with being a streamer and a YouTuber, there's a lot of like I think why it affects people mentally so much is, one, it takes a lot of like hard work. People only do it if they're, they have high hopes. No one starts with, no one starts crawling, wants to stay crawling, basically. So but I would say a lot of being a YouTuber and streamer, the reason why it's so intense on people's like mentality is you don't ultimately choose how you become successful exactly, or how fast you do, or how slow you do. You just have to put in what you have to put in, and then it'll happen if it happens, etc., etc. If it's for you or not for you. But a big part of it is you're constantly breaking down your psyche, your psychological makeup, and a lot of that comes from like your DNA, your upbringing, everything like that. So when you're breaking down something, and you've got to take it on board, and it's a constant like breaking down, taking on, breaking down, and that gets really, really like wearisome and causes a lot of mental fatigue for people, especially if you're in like a creative sphere as well. that can take a toll on you. Like I've seen people that blow up in YouTube and you never kind of see them again because, and you kind of wonder, well, you're in a position where loads of people would, as I say, kill to be there. But you're there and you don't really, maybe you upload once a year, maybe you upload once every 2 years, maybe you're just gone. And I think it's because a lot because it's one thing getting success and it's another one keeping it and growing off of that. And a lot of that takes adaptation, and a lot of that takes you denying things about yourself and changing in ways that might not even be up to your choice. You might not even have a choice. You might just be forced to make that change. I think that's why you find a lot of people in video games, particularly, that lose a passion for their games, especially big streamers and stuff like that. Because if they want to continue being a big streamer, they have to jump on the big games. So then you get an influx of streamers into this game because this game got big. People move from Among Us to Rust, et cetera, et cetera. It'll be something else in a month. They'll move on, and you're kind of just moving on to what's popular rather than something that you're particularly invested in.
For sure.
It's yeah. So I think a lot of that takes the control out of your hands, and the changes that you make are not up to you. You're just along for the ride, kind of a thing, which some people like. They'll take it because the benefits are good enough for them. But other people, especially when it's their passion, they like to be very particular and picky, and they want to choose everything. It's not going to be like that. You're going to have to make a lot of decisions that will ultimately feel like they weren't your decision. You did them because they were good to do.
Yes, I understand what your
career, etc.
What you're getting at there, because it's a trade-off almost. There's the element of doing something that you love to do. For example, I got partnered back in Halloween of last year, and leading up to that, I've been streaming for 4.5 years, and a lot of it was in a game called Dead by Daylight, which obviously I know you've played. And at one point I was I went from being a community moderator for them to a community manager, and sort of worked my way up as best I could. But I found myself getting stagnant to some degree in that game, and it's nothing about the game itself from my perspective. I think people often say, why are you not playing this anymore? But it's never been that for me. But going based off of what you've said, when I changed up to doing more variety stuff, it was actually at the moment where I was starting to get towards the level to apply for partnership. And I found it really interesting that me branching out at that point was more based on the fact that I was maybe just riding the wave of having fun playing other things. Like Among Us came out, we had Phasmophobia, games like that. So I had that sort of revelation of spending so long in one game and then ironically finding success in another. Well, I think the internet just dropped. So I'm going to keep this in the podcast, I think. Hello. I don't know which point you cut out there.
Yeah,
but we've got you back.
Yeah, hold on. Let me get this back up. All right. Okay. You were saying at one point?
At one point. Okay. So yeah, to go back to where I was, when it came to, at one point I realized with variety gaming that going from a game like Dead by Daylight, where I had put 4 years of putting all my time into that, to go to playing other things and riding that wave of enjoyment of playing with other people that I enjoyed playing with, that was kind of the moment for me where I realized that the success that I was having wasn't based off of the fact that I had it wasn't the fact that I was remaining in that game. I'd already established the audience I had, but I was gaining a lot more traction based off of the decisions I was making in terms of actively putting myself in, taking those opportunities, making those friendships with people that maybe I wouldn't have made before because I was too nervous to do so, or taking those opportunities to step out of my comfort zone a little bit. So to bring it back to something that you said prior to this, you were saying about you can't choose how much success you're going to have. I found that really interesting. At which moment for you did you realize that you were successful in what you were doing? Was there like a definitive point where you were like, this is happening all of a sudden, rather than it just being you creating the videos for
hobby?
fun? Yeah.
Well, for me, like how I started with very lofty ambitions, and they were quickly destroyed with the reality of YouTube. And that takes a minute. That takes a minute to swallow that pill. So I had to like envision a different way, a way of success and how I perceived success. And I think if you set something that's too large of a goal, and it takes too long to achieve it. Let's say I wanted to reach 100K subs, right? And I said to myself, I want to reach that in 3 months, and I don't reach it. I reach 10K subs. You'll be disappointed. But if I said to myself, I want to reach 10K subs in 3 months, and then you reach 10K subs, you'd be like, yes, I did it. Good job. So, and you'll be continued and motivated to reach something else. It's sometimes I feel like you kind of need like two aims in life. You need a long-term aim and you need a short-term aim. I'm Christian. I have my long-term aim already. But short-term aims are actually a little bit tougher for me. And so what I kind of learned is that it's best to give yourselves minor goals and go for those instead of the spectacular, like I want to hit 1 million next year, et cetera, et cetera. Because just a lot of things happen in personal life, et cetera, that you have to work through things. People. I remember. Now, obviously, there was the Carson drama, and one thing, and that's a whole another ball game. But one thing I remember from that, just from digging into it, listening to people, etc., lots of different YouTube videos, was that he had imposter syndrome. So he blew up very quickly, and he had imposter syndrome. He was like, when I tweet, I get this amount of X amount of likes and retweets, and people just laud
He didn't
over me.
believe that he had the success that he was
No,
having.
he believed it.
He didn't believe he deserved it. Sorry.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but in a way, he didn't believe it either. So he was kind of. You're right in both senses, really, because he was denying the reality and that he was, he couldn't live true to that reality. And I think because of that, I think that was his main mistake. If he thought differently than that, I think he would have been more mature about how he would have approached that kind of I guess
situation,
level of power really. And notoriety. So I think you just have to be very careful. Set yourself goals that are reasonable within your own space. And another thing is, like, if you're close in a circle with someone and they start they start shooting off, it's very unhealthy for you to be ungrateful towards them. It's not even ungrateful towards yourself, it's ungrateful towards them. Even if they shoot off into the distance and you don't see them again, they're gone off to the horizon, and that's it. They're more of a. It's not about making memories with them anymore. It's all about reliving past memories and how you used to be close to them and how you used to be this. I think that's a very bad recipe to be unsuccessful. Or if you become successful with that, you'll simply destroy your own success, or someone will come into your life and destroy it for you. Because it's that doesn't just come from nothing. That comes from like who you are as a person. If you see people that have been good to you, or just have been good people in general, and you can't be happy for their success. If you can't really be happy for a person that is a good person for their success, then it's very debatable whether you'll even be happy with your own success either. Because if you perceive them as good, you're not really seeing all of the bad stuff about them, number one. But number two, you do see all the bad stuff about you. So if you do become successful, you'll just end up like another Carson. You'll end up with imposter syndrome. You'll end up with miscalculations of appropriate action that should or shouldn't be taken with that level of, the level of fame. And you'll end up losing it all. Carson, I don't believe Carson's coming back. He's not coming back. He's just going to be another person that, that career got destroyed, in my opinion, by their own doing. So it's very important that with the success you're building, that you're building yourself up as a person too, and that you're not setting yourself crazy goals, because they'll ultimately lead to disappointment. And if you have a passion that you're pursuing and you're constantly disappointed, not a lot of people have the hope to counteract that disappointment and push beyond that. I'll give you an idea. Someone I met recently at the mall, I don't remember his name, unfortunately, but I doubt he'll watch this podcast.
You never know.
Sometimes you can meet people that are fans, and you can already tell within you can tell very soon they're not real fans.
Yes, Nogla, but you're making the classic mistake of thinking that they're a fan of you rather than, what if they're a fan of me? And you just don't know that yet. True.
That would be a crazy plot twist. If he's in the comment section,
like, oh, it's that guy.
If he's in the comment section here, good luck to you, man. Here's more advice for you. But they might be a fan of the Vanos group, and I'm in the Vanos group. They might not even be subbed to me or watch my videos, but they just know my voice, etc.
Yeah.
But I'm not bothered by it. But this guy, he came more across as a guy that's familiar with YouTube stuff and familiar with me, and was more kind of, okay, what can I get out of this? I can't get too much, but I need to get something. And most people I meet, they're like, excited, want a photo, and then, you move on. But this guy, I'm fine with people asking questions on it, but I don't know. I'll explain it anyway. I'll explain as best I explain. But he lives mainly in one country. I met him in America. He mainly lives in another country, and he's over in America, and it seems from what he said, he wasn't very specific on some aspects of it, and I won't delve into his personal life too much, but he was basically helping out family members in the country. And so he was traveling back and forth, and he was asking me for advice and stuff like that. And if that was a situation someone's in, they're traveling back and forth, they don't have a particular set of place to just sit and work and go to every day. Your worst issue you're going to come into is consistency, or the lack of. Like for me, I mainly live in Ireland, but I'm in America quite often, and so I actually have two setups. I actually have two completely different setups. Well, they're very similar. They have similar equipment, etc. But I have two setups, so that's how I'm able to be consistent. But it's very difficult if you're moving from your actual home to someone else's home that you're just helping out, and having a space on each of them and the time to dedicate to each of them, and the tools as well. Like the consistency, the time, and the tools. I would say the best thing I could say to that guy. Now I gave him advice on the overall general thing, and I said, look, if he wants to try and do it in this kind of situation, he can do it. He can try. But the issue is that if someone tries something that they should do too early, it could put them off doing what they should do at the right time. And so I hope he doesn't do anything until the right time. Because if he tries YouTube and he keeps trying it under those conditions, where I feel like conditions have to be met for success. And a lot of people, if you want to meet success, you have to meet the conditions before it. And I like when it comes to YouTube, there's only a few conditions that I know for sure that are true. One is hard work, of course, needless to say, because a lot of other people are working hard and things are only going to be harder. They're not going to get easier because of how the market is and how competitive things are. And there's only so much of the pie that can be shared.
Yes.
So you might have to be content with the crumbs till you can get a slice. And no one gets the whole pie either. So hard work it's very much needed.
Yeah.
And hard work could range from 5 hours a day one day to 10 hours a day to 15 hours a day. It depends what level of progress you're at. So if there's a lot of room to progress, that means there's a lot of work to be done. So if you're getting a lot of people, I've noticed that even myself, that once they start getting the success, because they've worked so hard to get to that point, they kind of put their foot off the pedal a little bit.
Got you.
But that's when you have to put it down. It's when the success starts showing up, that's when you have to double down on what you're doing. It's not, oh, I can lay back and just do what I did before. No. That's when you actually double down to get the most out of the success, because it comes in waves. You'll have a wave of success, then you'll have a stagnant, then you'll have a decrease, then you'll have an increase, then you'll have a stagnant, then you'll have it's completely like this. It's completely like that for everyone. PewDiePie has gone down in views, but people don't really think about that. It's like, oh, PewDiePie has gone down in XYZ views, and you know, so it's like.
So what was your first wave by that logic?
Well, there's a lot of things are very I guess the weight of the success is very relative to the position you're in. So for me, if I got 100 subs in a day back when I started, that was like, I was ecstatic.
Yeah,
I'd get 100 comments and I'd reply to each one of them. And I think those moments you kind of have to treasure. It's not so much hitting 1 million or hitting 5 million or whatever that need to be treasured. It's the little kind of successes in the beginning, because those keep you humble. Like I used to be happy getting 100 subs in a day. I used to, now I'd be like, Shane, if I got 100 subs, was YouTube deleting subs today or something? What was So I remember hearing something about a person, and I've listened to them a decent bit. They're very interesting. But they were speaking about, they're religious, but they were speaking about wealth. And they were talking about, I used to think in tens and now I think in hundreds. And then I used to think in hundreds and now I think in thousands. I used to think in thousands and now I think in 10,000s. And it was about how your perspective changes on the level of wealth that you have. And so that's kind of like, for me, it's like, I used to think in tens of views and hundreds of views and then thousands of views and then 10,000s of views. And humans are very upwards motivated. You can always go higher, really. Yes. And people don't really think of you can always go lower. They tend to really think you can always go higher. But both are true. Both are actually true. Which, it can be a scary reality for a lot of people, but it's true. I've seen people that go from getting 1 million views a video to 10,000. So you can, and then you're like, where do I go now? From there. So I kind of meandered off a bit. What was your original point?
It was there's so much I can unpack with what you just said as well. It was at which moment did you realize that you first had success?
Yeah, probably seeing 100 comments on a video for the first time was cool. Well, when I couldn't reply to the comments anymore, when I couldn't reply to all the comments anymore, And then I was like, I can't do this. Like I'm spending an hour replying to comments here. I can't do that every day.
I think that
that's
comes back to what you were saying about hard work, because there's at some point the hard work that you were doing before can become inefficient in terms of the time that you're spending on that, when you could be spending it on other hard work that you need to do.
Yeah, capturing footage, editing footage, and increasing skills with like Photoshop, even though I'm not very good.
Yeah, you have a basic understanding of that stuff for sure. And I think that was a big moment for me too, was learning how to edit, because one, in terms of my mental health in general, I've suffered with depression for the last 12 years, 15 years, a long old time. But one of the things that really helped me was editing the YouTube videos back when I was doing YouTube originally. I was doing it with a group of friends. Well, this was the second time I attempted YouTube, I guess, in a saturated market.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Which was playing games with them, and I got to the point where, this was 2014, where when I started editing, it gave me the opportunity to listen to my friends at 2 or 3 in the morning. So it went from me having that sense of longing to talk to them and hang out and interact with people, to then having that interaction at times when I couldn't physically have the interaction with them. And I think that's what's always helped me gravitate towards groups of YouTubers or streamers, is that friendship that they have together is something that you can get on board with. I think that's what always really fascinated me about, like you said, the Vanos group, was the fact that I at no point felt like I wasn't a part of what you guys were putting out. You involve yourself in it, and again, I think that's why then people also take the opportunity to defend you when they feel like someone's overstepped the mark.
Yeah,
because they're a part of that.
Maybe they relate
group.
as I'm the Nogla in my group kind of a thing. I think I've seen that before. That's why I don't judge them too much about it. But and that's why you have to understand where that person's coming from. But I really don't. I was more justifying my position when I was speaking about that earlier.
Yeah.
In terms of how I don't take that on board and why.
Of course.
Because the negative connotations that
it can become incredibly unhealthy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've seen people far more successful than me, and they see a bad comment and they'd be set off for hours, like upset about it. And I'm like, look, they're strangers at the end of the day. Like they're strangers. Like some of these people, they could be fucking criminals, and I wouldn't even know. Like,
it was interesting as to what you were saying. I'm so sorry.
But I do. So I do have to have a bit of perspective like this, to kind of like touch into what you said. Sorry, I'm talking a little much here, but
it's okay.
Just to touch from what you said about how, like, your kind of view on my group and how you felt involved. I think a lot of the group stuff, the sidemen, etc. There's lots of little groups that have kind of popped up, and there's groups that have popped up and disbanded, etc. too. There's a yearning to have a group like that for yourself, and there's a relatability if you have a group like that already. And I think that's kind of where people kind of come in, and you get the social aspect even without being in the same room as them, recording the same Discord. You're not in there with them. So I think that's a big thing. I think some people, we live in a very lonely society, and it's a very like individualistic society, and it's very like protection based, rights based. Hi. And instead of people,
hello.
Do you want to say hi, Aliyah?
Oh, I'd love to talk to the Uno champion of the household.
The Uno champion. He called you the Uno champion. Hold on, let me get her. She'd like this. He called you the
We're
Uno
talking about.
champion of the household. Do you wanna
I am.
just say
I'll come in
hi?
and say hi.
It's not a podcast if you
Hi,
don't pop
hi,
in
Aliyah.
in there.
Yeah,
How are
absolutely.
you?
Yes. Oh, I've been wanting. This is the real interview I've been wanting here, is to talk to the
If you want an interview, I'll always
professional-
give an interview.
You
professional
want to do a
Uno
podcast
champion.
with us? That would be pretty
I'm
cool.
just joking.
I would love to ask you a question about
Oh yeah,
Nogla
ask away.
in terms of what helps. Okay, let me try and word this correctly. So
Okay.
how, because I had it for him, which was, at which point did you realize that you're marrying an Uno champion, and how did you and Aliyah meet, and how does she support you with your
Oh.
streaming / YouTube content? So from your perspective, as being on the flip side of that, how does he support you in what you want to achieve in life, and how do you support him back with that?
Like with me, like he's very supportive of like what I want to do and stuff like outside of work from him, because he's always like, okay, you want to do this? I'll help you set this up. We'll get this started for you. Let's do this. Let's do this. And he's always pushing me to do it and stuff. So I really appreciate that. I don't know, with me, like
Here's the butt.
but with me on him, I always feel like I guess like I'm a bit harder like on him when it comes to like helping him achieve stuff though. I'm not as gentle as he is.
Are you, say,
You're
like
pretty
the
good,
driving
though.
force
Like,
behind?
videos together.
I know we've
and
done videos together and
we've
stuff.
ideas for stuff.
I mean just like with encouraging and stuff. and,
Yeah,
like,
are you the
supporting.
driving
Like,
force behind it, like the motivation to record?
Like,
It's because I have a weird
No,
job,
no,
though.
no,
It's kind
no.
of hard to understand.
Like-
It took you a while to understand, like,
Yeah,
just how
It
how
took me a
much-
while to like understand the flexibility
meander,
of his
yeah.
schedule.
Got
and
you.
It's
stuff.
like 1 minute it's like, oh yeah, we want to go out later, and then the next minute is like, oh, the boys
Oh wait,
message
he
and
has
we're
to
recording.
record, can't go out.
Mm.
Yeah,
So like that's
that
one
was
thing.
tough for a
But
little bit.
like I'm talking about like how I support you.
You do though.
That. About that. Like what I'm saying though is like I'm not as gentle as he is. Is he's like, oh yeah, let's go do this, let's do this, and I'm like, hey, go get this done now. Go do it, go do it, go do it.
Mm.
Was
Like,
that
I'm a bit harder.
It's kind of good though. It's a good balance.
Yeah.
I see it as a positive.
He sees it as a positive. I feel like
Yeah,
I could probably
you
ease up
definitely
though.
pushed me to be better in my work though. Because I would be a little bit more lackadaisical on things.
Yeah, and I'll be
I'm a
like,
lot
hey,
more
you have hours,
lackadaisical.
you gotta go do your hours,
Yeah,
go
like
do this.
I don't want to stream.
Yeah, he'll be like, oh, I don't want to stream, and I'll be like, no, go
You
stream.
have hours to do, and you're
That
like,
is
I'm just like,
incredibly.
well, it's early because I have a contract. I have to stream a certain amount of hours, and but it's early in the month. I can just do them
Yeah.
later. And you're like, no, just do them now, and then we can do something later.
Yeah, and I'll be like, we can do something later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very pushy. I'm pushier.
Yeah,
So-
It's a harder push.
I'm definitely a lot more consistent in my work, like hardworking wise, because of you. That was one thing I always lacked consistency. I would work really hard and then I'd get really lazy. I'd have a dip, and so
Yeah.
I have a lot more consistency in my hard work, and it's definitely
Okay.
yeah.
Can I get another question in? Oh, but
Yeah, you can
hang
get
on.
another question in.
All right. You mentioned about early on it being tough for the both of you, and as someone myself, I'm in a long distance relationship, have been for the last 15 months.
Oh yeah.
It is really tough. How
And even during COVID, yeah. I
Yes.
imagine it's even harder on you guys.
it really is. How did you? Were there any points where there was insecurity from you or doubt with how flexible his schedule is? Like you said, there were moments where you might want to go out for dinner, and then suddenly you have to change the plans. Like, how did that make you feel?
Like, because I'm a very like selfish lover, I guess I should say.
What was the
Like-
question?
Like, like I very much want my partner to
Yeah.
me.
yeah.
Like, I want my partner at all times. Like, I don't care if you're working. I want to be in the back, sitting with you, just breathing the same
we
air.
did do that for
Yeah,
a little while
we did
too.
that for a while
We had a
too.
little chair
Yeah,
that you would
like
sit
when
in.
people didn't know we were dating, I would be like in the back corner playing Sims.
Yeah, on
and
the
he would be
laptop.
like recording and stuff.
Yeah, that was cool.
But yeah,
Guys love that stuff though.
but yeah, like I wouldn't say anything. I was completely hidden. Like, wouldn't hear me at all. But like when it first started, like, yeah, it was hard on me because like I'm so like, no, I want my time. It's me time. Me. But like I guess over time I started to understand because I was sitting in the back with him, like while he was doing the recording, like, oh, okay, yeah, he does have to work. Okay, after he works we can do this. Oh, it's okay, I can just do stuff later, you know?
I guess you're
Like there's always more
Take my
time.
work time as kind of, oh, that means it's me time.
It
So,
kind of like it helped
in a
me
way.
grow and learn like it's not the end of the world because I had like a constant thinking of like, oh my god, if I don't get my way,
Well,
I don't get my way, this is the end.
I guess
It's
also
the end of the world.
I guess also you had to learn, Aliyah, that you're sharing
Yeah.
him with 7 million people.
Exactly.
You know,
like
so-
I had to learn like he is my partner, but there's also a side of my partner that also is shared with the world.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's a little weird.
So it's
I
like,
guess I've never really been in that position, so I actually wouldn't know how that feels.
well, it's okay. I'll just start streaming. I got you.
Yeah,
I
well,
can just put myself in that position.
I'll put your links in the description rather than Nogla's.
then I'll know your pain.
I have one more question for the both of you whilst you're here, which is, what was it like having to keep something like that private and secret? How did that affect you at all? And what was it like knowing that must be really hard to deal with, hiding something like that and
Like, he's asking, like, what was it like hiding?
Oh,
here we go. Yeah, what prompted your decision to keep your engagement private, and what was it like for someone that has been in the public eye for such a long time? So
that was tough.
It was super tough.
Yeah.
Because like I'm like a very open person with no secrets.
Yes, you're very open.
So like I'm very open with my friends.
That was one thing I was kind of surprised about when I first met you too, is just how open you were.
Like I'm very open and honest about stuff. Like you ask me a question, I'll give you the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And like for me, it was really hard.
Because not talking
yeah,
about the pregnancy
because not
is the
talking
opposite
about
of
it
that.
is like a complete opposite of being open and honest, you know? Like I was hiding stuff, and then like I was also like out of the country too.
Yeah.
So it was like only like the close friends that knew I was out of the country kind of knew for a while too, until I had gotten back later in the year.
Yeah.
So it was like I left, I was 115 pounds. I came back.
It was kind of like COVID. It was like
yeah, it was like
COVID. It was kind of like, to be honest, our lockdown was actually easy compared to the year before, if you think about it. That's why I think we probably weren't as affected as other people, is because you had your own little lockdown.
Yeah, I had my own like little lockdown of being like, oh yeah, just me pregnant, can't say anything.
Is that the hardest secret you've had to keep?
Oh yeah, that's like the hardest secret.
Mm.
Yeah, big issue was like mobility. We didn't
we didn't have
a lot of freedom or mobility
either
and
in Ireland.
I had a different level of contentment that you didn't have, and I wasn't like aware of. So how I explain it is like, I've always been just happy in my spot, working on my games, working on my videos. I could stay inside for a whole week straight and not see sunlight, and I'd be like, okay, I need a bit of sunlight. I'll go out for 5 minutes. I'm fine. I got enough sunlight. You know, I was extremely content with just being a basement dweller.
But me,
you're a social butterfly. You're like a sunflower.
I'm 100% a valley girl. Like, you know, Clueless. Like that was literally me and my friends in high school. Oh, you wanna go shopping? Yeah, let's go. Let's go to the beach. Oh, hey, it's 10 p.m. You wanna go to the beach and just sit there? Yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
like,
and that was like probably a common occurrence for you.
Yeah, and that was my whole life.
That would be a never occurrence for me. So
and then like
massively different levels of like social contentment, I would even call it.
Yeah, and then to be like
in
boom,
the countryside,
pregnant, boom in the countryside.
In the countryside, boom. Can't talk about it on social media.
Can't talk about it on social media. Can't post a picture to let everybody know either.
Yeah. No, that was rough. That was tough.
But we got through it.
Yeah. It'll be very different to next time. Yeah.
You know, next pregnancy, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, baby.
Yeah.
But
This is the inside
we were
scoop
also still just
for those of
figuring
you.
stuff out too. So
Yeah, because it was fairly early in the relationship,
yeah, it was
and we
early in
were
the relationship.
first time becoming parents.
Boom.
So all of it's very daunting.
And then we were also like, we don't want to be a family channel and don't want to make
Yeah.
it seem like we're trying to become a family channel out of nowhere by just being like, hey, we're pregnant. Boom. And then it's always like
There was
pregnant.
a lot of talking
clickbait.
and thinking back and forth,
Yeah.
and then like it was tough. It was
just
some tug of wars, but like
Yeah.
I think every relationship kind of has that. Like you kind of learn something from someone after having a tug of war with him as well.
Yeah.
You definitely learn a thing or two of like what's the strength of the person you're dealing with. So I do have a degree of fear of Aliyah now.
I have a very hard pull.
Yeah.
I have a very hard pull. I
So-
may be 5'1", but
Yeah, no, for sure, no. And even YouTube's kind of like a bit of a tug of war too.
oh yeah.
Like when you have interpersonal relationships, it's a tug of war. What do you want to record? That's a tug of war. Like, I don't want to record Uno. Nogla, you always want to record Uno. I don't want to record Uno. So it becomes a tug of war, and it's like, but I've played too much Gmod. Like we need something else.
Yeah.
So there's always tugs of war, little tugs of war in life. And you kind of
It's like
you
when
learn
you've had
people.
oatmeal for too long and you need to switch it up a little bit, but you don't really want to switch it up, so you just add a little bit of jelly to it, but then you don't really like that jelly.
Yeah, it's a lot of testing, tug of war, but yeah, we're good. Oh, see, I was going to do something there, and then you did something, and then I hit you.
Bye. I
Bye.
gotta go check the puppy.
Two.
Well, if she ever needs
Yeah.
someone to play Uno with, I'm always available as well.
True. I can
so.
always do Uno with Aliyah. That is a guarantee. That's something I always know.
That was a really
Very
unexpected
revealing,
but
I'm sure.
pleasant experience to talk to her too.
Yeah, she's the massive social butterfly. If there's a party, I bring her to it because she'll get everyone feeling comfortable. And then I'll be the guy in the corner talking to one person about their life, and they'll be like, "I didn't come to this party to have a have a psychological evaluation." So we're very different. We're very different that way. Like she flourishes a lot more in like group setting and social environments. She's very bubbly and stuff like that. My dad likes her a lot because of that. Like I'm not like that, but my dad is kind of like that. Like my dad, he growing up, he'd be very kind of working in his own space and stuff like that. And as you get older, you kind of realize who your parents are when you spend time with them. When you're in your 20s and you go out with a drink with them or something like that. So I went to the pub with my dad, and I realized, like, I never really saw him as a social person growing up, but I was seeing him at the pub with like friends and some family and stuff like that. He's like very social. In that setting. I'm like, that's kind of weird. Like, this is another aspect of my dad I just didn't really like comprehend was even there. And Aliyah was like, she came over to Ireland and she was chilling with him, and she was at the pub and having a pint with him and socializing, sitting next to him. And at the end of it, when she left, my dad was like, "Yeah, I like this one."
Oh,
thank
that
was like my dad's blessing right there.
Yeah,
that was my dad's blessing. So when I had that, I was like, you know what? I think he's onto something. If he's seeing something here, he is a good eye for people. I think he's a good eye for people knowing what people are good people and bad people. And so I was like, yeah, I feel like he's right. So.
That would be nice as well, because I can throw that in as a clickbait title as well, that you talked about. Baby number 2 is gonna be out there in the world when we talk about it. So
yeah.
Nogla announces.
Nogla announces that he announces an announcement about an announcement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You
whatever helps the views, man.
Yeah, because I found it so crazy so far. Like, obviously I've had Freya on, who's
I've played Among Us with them.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously she's got Josh and the Sidemen, and it was nice to talk to her about her experiences. And then I've had Lexi on to talk about K-pop and dancing and the reaction stuff. And then I've had DK Dakota's talk about Fortnite and his success. So I'm really blown away to be in a position where I'm talking to such people with so much variety in the knowledge that they have. And one of the things that you brought up during that was talking about, sometimes I don't want to record Uno, or I didn't want to record Gmod. We've played that a lot. In those games that
other people saying it, I always want to play Uno.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you are one of the Uno champions, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, Terrorizer is the one who doesn't want to play Uno anymore. So no, I've always got you covered if you ever need someone for couples as well. My partner streams too, so.
Oh, nice. That's that's noted. Where do you upload your podcast, by the way?
So we have them at the moment. It's YouTube, and then we also have them on Spotify.
And what's the exact YouTube? The
YouTube is Streamer Consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So streamer, like us being streamers, and then consciousness. It's like stream of consciousness, but
I got it.
Yeah.
There we go. There you go.
Perfect. But yeah, you said about when people get tired of like, I don't want to record this today. What is it like playing games like that day in, day out? And how do you keep things fresh when you've been doing it for so long? What is it that keeps it fresh for you? And how much has being able to play modded games affected the longevity of the game that you play?
Yeah, like historically, Gary's Mod is essentially a modded game.
Mm-hmm.
And we even got people to make maps, etc., and obviously our player models, and that gave it a lot more longevity, because it enhanced the role play aspect, especially the characters. So I would say mods are a big part of my channel. Like even getting into Among Us mods, that's been like really, really positive. And I'm thinking about lots of other mods and other games as well. Because I think it brings unique and interesting content, games that people want to see, but have dried up in entertainment value. Like Among Us massively dried up in entertainment value. They'll boost again when they come out with a new map, whenever that is. But you know what I mean? There's still a market for people that want to view Among Us content. And the mods make that unique. They deliver a unique experience. So mods are very important. Mods are very important. I think I want them to become more important, and I'm thinking and looking more into that every day. And
is there a game that used to be popular that you loved that you really wish it could be relevant today?
Oh, good question. Actually, hold on. I'll have to double think this one. Hold on. You know what I'll do? I'll go through my most popular and see. Well, to be honest, Gary's mod was hugely popular, but it's not popular anymore. It would get less than Among Us, for instance.
Yeah.
I would say Gary's mod. I would like Gary's mod to be more popular. I would love another Gary's mod game if they came out with a new Gary's mod game.
For sure.
Lots of new aspects, etc. to it. I would definitely love that. And that would be one thing. Another thing would be, Black Ops 2's always been great.
Yeah.
I always loved it in the channel. Black Ops 2 would love to. I'd love for a Cold War. Just I don't want to talk about it. The multiplayer search and destroy. Don't want to talk about it. That's it, and that's enough. That's enough for me. But I would love a Call of Duty search and destroy. It was really fun. Modern Warfare was like that, and obviously Wildcat blew up a lot on that.
Yeah.
I would love another very good search and destroy Call of Duty. I would love the next Call of Duty to be another Black Ops Call of Duty that isn't, well, obviously it's Black Ops Cold War, but that isn't Cold War. It's more of like a Black Ops 2 style Black Ops where they allow all the fun, etc. in it. Cold War feels very... I'm not saying anything more about it.
It's okay. But, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion based on that.
Yeah, it's I'll just use the word, it feels very diluted. to me.
I
So
guess
yeah, I look forward to the next card and hope it's good.
Yeah,
SMD.
in many respects, you could argue that every new game of COD is like a mod of the original. In terms of, you know, you're looking at like Modern Warfare and Black Ops, or even World at War if we want to go that far back. But the fact is that they are variations on what was a great concept. So I can see what you're saying in terms of it feeling diluted, and just watered down in general. But maybe they just need more places that you can all lie prone in a line. Maybe that's what you're missing from.
Yeah, we just need it would be cool to do hidden masters again. Or that was a thing where you'd go into S&D, or you'd go into team deathmatch, I should say, and you'd basically all hide in a big line in grass, and you'd get one kill with a bouncing Betty, and you just hide, and you'd message the other team while you're all hiding and invite them to a party chat and talk with them while you're all hidden. I would say that the degree in which people are competitive, their level of, you know, seriousness that comes to video games, especially multiplayer, has increased massively. And combine that with skill-based matchmaking, and our group being people that are above average in every aspect in terms of KD, etc. We end up getting higher level lobbies where people are very sweaty, and you can only do fun, goofy, dumb shit like that with people that are casuals,
for sure,
essentially. And so with skill-based matchmaking, it's simply I would call it the destroyer of comedy content is skill-based matchmaking. That's how I would put it.
Speaking of comedy content, how when it comes to recording a video, you guys sitting down, how much of your videos is like a scripted idea versus how much of it is improvised when you go into whatever it is? Do you start with like, hey, this is the basic idea and we're just going to riff off of that? Or do you just go balls to the wall straight in and we're just going to improvise until we hit the gold mine?
I would say a lot of most of it's improv. We do have a general, like, you know, hey, let's play this map, or let's go do this, and we just kind of go for it. And it's primarily improv. There's very little scripting, very little.
Yeah.
To be honest,
when I say scripted, I mean scripted idea, like going in with the idea of, okay, we're gonna today we're setting up a shop, and then you just run with it. Like, how much is it to do with like you having an original sort of point to then branch off of, rather than it being scripted in terms of you writing your own jokes, that kind of thing?
Even that is very little, to be honest. Maybe in the Gmod sandbox days, yes, it would be more like that in the Gmod sandbox days. However, not now. It's like, well, I'll give you an instance of what we're doing Monday. There's 10 of us, and basically we're going to do an Among Us mod. And I'll bring the mod and I'll explain the mod. We'll just play and have fun. That's it. Same with like a Call of Duty Zombies map. Hey, we got this map. This map seems fun. Let's play it. It has an ending. It has a boss, or whatever. Let's go do that. Creative aspects, like in terms of, we're going to go build a shop. I would say when Minecraft had its kind of summer surge, there was stuff like that where an example would be the one time, like blowing up Wildcat's house, right? We're going to put loads of TNT, we're going to connect it to a switch and a lever, and then we're just going to ask Wildcat to pull the lever, and it blows up his own house, so he kind of blows up his own house. Like that. So in Minecraft, yes, very much so. There'd be 100% going invisible and messing with Nogla. That was very funny. All that stuff. That would be definitely kind of more what you're saying. But, it really depends on the game and how much enthusiasm there is for it.
If you could be good at any one game of your choice, what game would you want to be good at? And by good, I mean completely top of the game,
Shroud.
the 1%. What game would it be?
Shroud level of good.
Why would it be Sega Bass Fishing? That's what I want to know.
a classic, yes. Other than that game, some games like, I'm happy being good at games, and I feel like I can make content based off that. Just being good, or even just having fun being bad. But there's games like that I've gotten brand deals offered to me and everything that I've declined purely because I'm so bad at that genre of games. And it's basically massive building games where it's like you've SimCity or Civilization, all those Age of Empires, even Sims and all that stuff. There's intricacies in that game that are just, I could follow them, but my brain would be fried by the end of it. And I don't want to I don't want to indulge in it into a level in which I'd have to become, extremely good through the time invested in it. And the offset is just my brain would be fried after every single time, and I'm coming out. So I would pick the weakest genre of games, and I think it's games such as like SimCity and all those games where I've seen people do crazy stuff, really funny, wild, crazy stuff, and I'm like,
it's never gonna be me.
Oh, puppy got stepped on or something. we got a tiny puppy. We got a tiny puppy miniature schnauzer, and he's very much like walking behind everyone's heels. He's always by your heels.
Oh goodness.
So it's like if you could be walking in a straight line just towards the kitchen, and he's just like,
he's gonna be there.
I don't know. Is it like you try your best to avoid him, and then he's just like right under your feet out of nowhere, and you're like, what? How? So sometimes you hear a little yelp out of him, you feel bad, and he's fine though. He's fine. He was always fine.
Have you had many pets in the past?
Yeah, my family's always been that kind of dog family, so it's and Aliyah's family is very dog family orientated as well, so I assume there's just always going to be a dog in the house. I tried for as long. Yeah, they're cool. They're cool. They're definitely like healthy to have too. I think it's just what kind of dog, and just being smart about the dog. And some dogs are more higher maintenance than others, and so finding a good low maintenance chill dog that just happy with his walk and food, and he'll just chill out with you and play a bit. And that's those dogs. They're very much manageable alongside work.
Speaking of going for walks and other stuff like that, what's it been like with lockdown? Obviously, the world's been in a pandemic. With us being streamers and obviously being able to create content, how has it affected you? Whether or not that be through, have you seen an increase in numbers based on more people being inside, really. or has it affected your mood in particular, or the audience that are coming in? Are they coming in in a different way?
I would say probably no to all of those things, to be honest. A lot of the people that gain views from lockdown are more kid channels, more kiddie content, Fortnite, etc., Roblox, a little bit of Minecraft as well. But I wasn't really doing any of those content when lockdown started, and so I would say no, not really. There was a minor kick, but nothing crazy, maybe a few percent or something like that. And in terms of like me personally, it didn't. I know a lot of people it did affect, but I never really felt massively impacted by it, other than inconveniences. Mainly because I was on lockdown anyway. Really, I was already on lockdown.
Yeah, I've definitely been on lockdown for the last sort of 20 years of my life, I'd say.
I will say once there's any availability for anything really, completely no lockdown anymore, I would be. It's actually made me more extroverted in a way. So,
you mentioned about wanting to be good at like the SimCity building games and stuff like that. You talked about turning down sponsorships or brand deals with specific people. How do you, in the position that you're in, go about selecting the right brand deals for you? Because obviously there's a lot of people out there that haven't ever had sponsorships or brand deals that I'm sure would be very interested to know what they're looking for when someone approaches you with that.
I would say it's very important to like share information, privately with people that you trust and that could have had a brand deal. And you don't have to go into very specifics. Some brand deals have NDAs, etc. But I would say that it's always healthy to have a contact in some way that you build up over time, or just met, and you can talk to them about it. Hey, look, I get this amount of views and I get this amount of that. Or you can do your own personal research as well. Just Google is your friend, of course. When it comes to exploration like that, I would say, it's always good to get a fair price. It's always good to evaluate yourself and say, can I deliver something good here? Another thing is, don't do too many of them. As well. I've done a lot. So now I'm more focused on like integrations rather than dedicated videos.
Yeah.
But that wasn't really a thing. Like when I was doing YouTube, there wasn't a lot of that going around. But there's a lot of integrations and dedicated stuff floating around. Just on the general kind of market on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I would say, don't think about that stuff. Focus on your content. Do dedicated stuff if the money's good and you need it. And, you want to get a step closer to putting a down payment on a house or just pay your rent. Like I completely think go for it. People will understand, especially if you're on the smaller end of the spectrum, and in your revenue, and you're at a point where a sponsorship could be pay the bills that month. Go for it. There's no shame in it. Even if it's a game that you don't even, find yourself excelling at, go for it. But always check yourself before you accept a deal. Is it, I've gotten deals for some weird ass games. Just let's just say let's just say it's on the anime side of things.
Yeah.
And it's on the weirder side of anime.
I mean, well, I just played in
website and video game.
I just played in Twitch Rivals Among Us with a group of VTubers, so I've started to learn a lot more about the weirder side of anime through
that is VTubers is the normie side, but this kind of company approached me and they wanted me to do something on a game on their website and all this stuff, and it was good money.
If they're on the normal side,
it was just
then...
VTubers are considered normal compared to what the offer I got, but it was like no, it couldn't do it within good conscience, but it just depends on your level where you're at. Like I've accepted deals before for like $200 and stuff like that. Now I accept deals for a lot more than that.
You said about a fair price. Like, how do you evaluate what a fair price is for you?
Around $25 CPM. That should be across the board. So if you're getting 100,000 views and $25 CPM, just calculate it from there. $25 CPM is just basically $25 per 1,000 views.
Yeah. So, it's good to know, because I'm sure people have different experiences on where they place their value, and I guess obviously that changes as you grow. And that concludes this week's episode of the podcast. As I've said at the beginning, there will be a second part to this coming out next week, which is going to be the conclusion, where I talk more with Nogla about his experiences in the Vanoss gaming crew, and he tells us more about his success and it's really fantastic. I loved talking to Nogla, getting to hear the way his brain works uninterrupted and letting him flow. So it's really incredible, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed. If you are watching on YouTube, please be sure to give it a like, maybe subscribe if you're feeling like you enjoyed the content and you want to see the other half, then please do hit that subscribe button. If you are watching listening to the podcast on Spotify and potentially any of the other podcast sites now, as I'm trying to get it up on Apple Podcasts and iTunes and Google Podcasts, it should be available on all of those, and Stitcher, other places too. So please do spread the word about the podcast. If you have any thoughts or comments, please let me know as well. I would love to hear from you guys. And I shall see you next week for the conclusion to the podcast with Nogla. And I really hope you enjoy. Have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.